Welcome to the Business SOS podcast. This is Rich Sierra, President of the Florida Small Business Legal Center. This is episode 71 of Business SOS. Thank you for listening, and I hope the information that we're providing to you every week is valuable to you as a business owner. If you're interested in our legal services, you can check out our website at floridasmallbusinesslegalcenter.com. And my email, if you want to reach me for any questions, is rich@richsierra.com. And if you send me a question I selected for the show to answer that question, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them, which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can ask for your local bookstore. So we recently in Florida had pretty much the Southeast had a devastating hurricane, Hurricane Helene, and it really made a impact on homeowners and also businesses, and unfortunately with some fatalities. So today I thought it was appropriate to talk about 10 tips to prepare your business for a natural disaster like a hurricane. Here in Florida, we are used to that, and we can never prepare enough. So I thought I'd share some of my thoughts about preparing your business for a natural disaster, but also I'll share some of the information that I was able to gather from various websites like the FEMA website and also the SBA. So it is why is a disaster preparation is critical for your business. The reality is that no one is immune to a natural disaster. No business is immune to it. So we have to prepare. We have to figure out ways to mitigate the potential damage. According to FEMA, 40% of businesses do not reopen after a disaster, and another 25% fail within 1 year. So that is significant, and it's important to know. And you can take steps to mitigate the potential damage. And one of the ways you can do that is by developing a business continuity plan and how you're going to continue your business in the event of a natural disaster. So you got to think of the what ifs. You got to think about what happened if I'm closed for a week. What happened if my property gets flooded, which happens very often, and it happened in the Tampa Bay area with especially businesses close to the shoreline. So you got to think about those things and plan for those and prepare for them. You should not be basically caught off guard, because hurricanes are predictable and they give you, to a degree, some advance notice in how to prepare for them. One of the resources that I will be sharing with you today and also putting in the show notes is the Insurance Institute for Business and Safety, Home Safety, developed a toolkit. It's called Open for Business EZ Toolkit, which is available on their website, and I'm going to have a link to that particular resource right in our show notes and also on our YouTube channel as well. It goes without saying, tip number 2 is to keep track of the weather reports and notification from your local officials. The moment that you hear that there's basically a potential storm coming to your area, whether you follow it through the news, or follow it through Twitter, or follow it through social media, you basically begin to monitor the situation and make decisions about when are you going to close, if you're going to close, if you're going to evacuate. Those are things you had to take warning, but you certainly cannot wait until the last minute, 24 hours before impact, to say what I'm going to do. So what I do, I basically begin to look at the Weather Channel. If it's in the background, look at updates, sign up for any type of text messages that will come from the Weather Channel and also for the local stations. So you got to keep track of both local stations and Weather Channel to keep track of that information, because as information changes, you'll be making some new decisions, whether it's staffing decisions, ordering the supplies. If you're a restaurant business, whether you want to order new inventory or basically hold off on that order, because otherwise the inventory will get damaged and basically become stale. So keeping track of the weather reports and notification from local officials is essential for you the moment that you are aware that a potential storm coming into your area. I would also, tip number 3, discuss with your landlord his or her rules regarding closures and continuing operation. You might have a situation that if you're in a shopping center, for example, the landlord may say, you guys got to close if we receive this type of notification, whether it's a hurricane warning, hurricane watch. You got to find out whether or not what are his or her rules so that way you're not violating the lease. And I will recommend also reviewing the lease in the event that happens. But your landlord will have certain rules and you need to follow them as well, along with the local municipality. They might have rules of closures and also access to your business location. If you're in a office building, for example, check with your property manager. You might have, you say, I can, come to the office, I'll be able to work. But your property manager may say, nobody's allowed in the building while there's a storm or while storm is coming or until the actual storm passes, just for your personal safety and also for their potential liability they might have having somebody, a tenant, stayed in the building in the event a storm actually occurs. So you got to double check with your property manager and your landlord as well. A tip number 4, this is very important. Have your insurance policies digitized if they're not already and available off-site. And you got to add the claims department of that insurance policy, your property insurance policy, your casualty policy, to your mobile phone. So that way you're not looking for papers in the event you have to put in a claim, that you already have it available on your phone. You can make that phone call and submit a claim. Protecting critical documents as well. Any important documents that you need to have for your business, you got to protect them offsite, digitize them. You're going to put them in a thumb drive in the case the computers are out. But also, since our phones now have tremendous amount of memory, a suggestion that I will give you is to have those documents available on your phone. Or in the cloud. You can create a folder in your phone. You have it available. You email those documents to yourself, upload them to the cloud system, and you have them accessible in the event that you have to access them and say you don't have your computers available. At the very least, you have them on your phone. Tip number 5, take pictures and videos of your business prior to the hurricane or the storm. Especially if you have furniture, you have computers, you have a plate glass window, whatever you want to preserve, you might want to put in a claim. Take pictures before the storm and have them take a video before you leave. So that way, in the case you have a potential claim, you actually have a video to show or pictures to show what items actually were damaged. The insurance company would probably want to look at those. Tip number 6, have an employee communication plan. This is very important. The well-being of your employees is paramount, and you need to be able to have a communication plan about who's going to come back to the office or to your place of business to open your business in the event after a hurricane passes, or who's going to be remaining in your business before the storm ends, before the storm arrives. So, and also communication plan of your employees so that way they know when they need to come to work. Something I want to share with you, it's important that you don't place your employees in any peril with respect to have them come to work when they already know that they might be in a situation that they may be in harm's way. And also having sensitivity of the way they live in relation to your business and whether or not there might be road closures, flooding, power lines that are down. So understanding where they live in relation to your business, you can make those decisions as to when and how they will arrive. They will be able to show up to work. But it's imperative that you do not put them in any type of danger when they come back to work or forcing them to come back to work if you knew or have any indication that it's not safe for them to return. Uh, and before you do that, you also have to do a survey of your location. That will be your responsibility, that after the storm passes, you actually go to your business locations when it's safe and take a survey, whether there's electricity, whether there's water, whether the roads actually, you can drive through the roads and see whether there's any type of damage on your lease location and your business, and then find out whether or not it's safe for the employees to come to work. I'll make this, the reason I'll tell you this is following. You have a situation that you have a tremendous leak coming through your to your premises, which happens often in various different locations like large retail stores or large retail shopping centers. And you tell employees come back to work, an employee slips and falls, then you're dealing with a potential workers' comp claim, potential negligence claim, because you asked the employee to come to work at a place that you knew or should have known that was not safe for them to work. So you have to survey the area, make sure that the location that they're working on is safe. You got to mitigate that. Obviously, if you have a situation where there's a leak or there's any type of damage to your premises that you're leasing, you got to immediately notify the landlord. If it's the landlord's responsibility, they're the ones that have to bring the proper vendors to fix that. So just to make sure that, before you have your employees come to work, you survey the area, survey your premises, make sure that it's safe for them to come back to work, and then obviously you can call them as you deem appropriate. And that goes into staffing assignments for reopening. How you're going to reopen, when, and also notifying the customers that you're open back, you're back in business after the storm passes. Before the storm, I would say take steps. This is tip number 7. Take steps to protect your business. That goes into, what you ask the landlord first, of course. Unless it's you own the building, you need to ask the landlord whether you can actually board the premises and have boarding and basically nails around it to protect the glass plate. You got to ask the landlord first whether or not you can do that. Some of my customers, what they have done with permission of the landlord, at their own expense, they have actually installed accordion shutters right in front of the premises, the glass plate, and also the door. 2 reasons. Number one, it provides a safety, especially after hours or the weekends when they're not operating. In this case, you can actually lock that, and you not have an issue anybody breaking the glass plate and trying to break into your premises. But also you have the additional protection that if there's a storm coming in, at least you might not have wind damage coming into you because you have the accordion shutters. Not much we can do about flooding, but at the very least you have that protection. But I would ask the landlord first whether or not you can do that before you start making those changes. To the extent that you can, this is still number 7, move items to higher ground. If you have office space that you're on the first floor, but you have actually, whether it's a second story in that office space, or maybe you can actually take those computers that are sitting in the ground, put them on top of a desk, anything you can actually move higher to protect those computers, try to do it to the extent that you can. Some things you may not be able to do, but the good thing about, if there's anything good thing about hurricanes, is that you get advance warning and you're able to plan ahead and use some common sense strategies to mitigate a potential damage. If you put your computers on top of a desk, if you have, say, 2 feet of water, very, very likely you're not going to have those computers will be preserved. And put them in plastic. And again, most of the stuff that we have now is on the cloud. So, but even though there might be old computers, if you get 5 computers that are damaged because of water, because they were left on the floor, when the storm came in, then there's a few $1,000s you have to go ahead and spend on trying to replace computers. And then, as much as we can, we want to have everything on the cloud, and we should. The reality is sometimes we don't. And you might have some things in your desktop that you forgot to back up. You might have some of those documents that you use frequently. You keep them in your desktop. I know I do. So when you have a computer that is lost, you lose some data. So, this goes into the issue of backing everything up on your system, but also trying to preserve that computer, because it is going to be a tremendous inconvenience of trying to replace that system that you already know how to use. Tip number 8, and again, this is not in any type of order. I'm just giving you this various tips that I want to share with you, is to know your risks and vulnerabilities. And I mentioned earlier to you is that when preparing your plan, you got to imagine the what ifs. What if there's wind damage and then something projectile goes through my glass plate? How am I going to handle that? What if there's the parking lot floods to the extent that water seeps into your property? How am I going to handle that? Do you have wood floors? Do you have carpeting? So you have to kind of, think of those scenarios and then prepare for them. And there's no, 100% proof way to prepare, except think of those scenarios and go through various checklists that actually they're available. And in fact, one of them is available in the resource that I shared this morning. Let me show the checklist, yes. With the toolkit that the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety developed. So I'm going to share that with you. That's actually has a great checklist for you that I'm going to share with you on the show notes. You can download it. It's available. And, of course, it's free of charge as well. I want to talk about insurance. One of the things I recommend as well is to consider business interruption insurance. In most leases that I've seen, even if you have some type of casualty event, say like a hurricane, you're still required to pay that lease, even if you're not operating. The way to mitigate that is to business interruption insurance. If you're in a type of service business that you can work remotely, it might not affect you that much. But if you're in a retail business, in a business that you depend on foot traffic to come in, whether it's a retail store, ice cream shop, a restaurant, and you're closed for a period of time, you're not generating revenue. And there's going to be a gap on your revenue coming in. So how are you going to handle that? The way to handle that is through either through savings that you may have to cover those expenses, or you may have business interruption insurance, which will cover that gap in the event you have a casualty event. Unless you ask for business interruption insurance from a business broker, sometimes it is not offered. So I recommend you ask for your insurance broker to tell you about business interruption insurance, how much it costs. And again, if you can cover your payroll, you can cover your lease. You're not going to cover 100% of your expenses because the cost is going to escalate. Then you got to make that determination. But the other way to think about it is that, okay, what if I don't have this insurance? What if I'm closed for 2 weeks? What would happen to my business? Do I have to lay off employees? Do I have to close down? So it's worth looking into it. So I highly recommend you at least look into it to see if something that might benefit your business, something you can afford to do. But it's a way to meet that gap, because your landlord will give you the bill on the first of the month, regardless of what happens. I mean, unless the property is completely destroyed, which is, the property we call untenantable, then most likely you got to continue paying that lease, even if you cannot operate. But I know I'm digressing here. There are defenses to that, but I'm not going to go into that. I just think, answer to the question, do I need to pay my lease even if there's a hurricane and if I'm closed for about a week or two? The answer most likely will be yes. That is part of your lease for the most part. Actually, let's assume that it's part of your lease, and you have to be prepared for that. And again, this really affects more businesses that are in the retail or restaurant, or they work with the public, more foot traffic. Service businesses can operate remotely, like attorneys, accountants, consultants. They work more remotely, so they can move their business, with technology. So they're not dependent on a physical location to generate revenue, versus a business that deals primarily with retail. So I just want to keep that in mind, because I don't know, we have a wide audience, so you might be dealing with businesses that have both. They work in both spheres, in retail and also service. You need to understand your insurance policies and also the deductible requirements. Many times I get people say, I have insurance, and I say, what does it cover? And I don't know. I don't know. I just asked for insurance policies, and I just bought them. Whether it's a general liability policy, whether it's a professional liability policy, content policy, property damage, you have to understand your policies. If you listened to my podcast before, I emphasized the importance of reading your contracts and understanding your contracts. Because if in a case you might have insurance policies, but they don't cover content, they don't cover the damage that you might have suffered due to a hurricane or a flood, those policies are useless. They're not going to help you. So understanding what policies you have and what is covered is essential for your business. So especially in a case that dealing with a casualty event. So read your policies, understand them, and if that's what an attorney can help you with. Also, your insurance broker can help you with as well. So that's something that I recommend. Read your policies, understand them, and understand what deductibles requirements you have. For pretty much every policy that I've seen, there's a deductible in some cases. So understand how much it is, so you're prepared to pay for that in the event that you have to submit a claim. Contact your suppliers. Number 9, contact your suppliers and vendors on their ability to be able to provide support after the storm. Might be a situation that a supplier may not be able to provide, in the case of a restaurant, the food, because they might be limited by how access to the traffic they might have, some road closures. So find out from them, can they provide inventory that you need to be able to help your customers. So that's important for you to know. Number 10, last but not least, know where to obtain financial assistance after the hurricane. And there are a number of resources that I will share with you today, but also these links will be available in the show notes for you to refer to them as well. Obviously, FEMA is number one, is Federal Emergency Management Agency, and we by now are very familiar with them because they're the first agency that we hear about when there's any type of natural disaster, and they're the first line of defense. They're the first line that the agency that is responsible for coordinating any type of rescue or any type of assistance to homeowners and business owners that are affected by a storm. In Florida, I will also direct you to Florida Division of Emergency Management, which also has resources about what to do after a storm and any type of claims you want to submit, but also gives you a list of information and resources that you can tap into in the event that you're a victim of a storm. One that I was not aware of was aware, but there's one small detail that I learned as I was researching this topic for you today, is the SBA. SBA provides disaster loan assistance for business owners in the event of a natural disaster, but also they provide disaster loans for homeowners as well. And that's a tip that I was not aware of that until I began to read about this. So I want to share that with you. And what I'm going to do is to provide these links available on the show notes, as I mentioned before, and also on the website, so you can, go and look for this information. The bottom line in terms of preparedness is common sense, and you have to prepare in advance and think about what could happen. How will this storm affect my business? And think in advance and how you got to prepare and mitigate the potential damage. Hopefully, you will not have to utilize any of these strategies, and you'll be able to continue your business. But the reality is that we all could be affected. Can be affected by any type of natural disaster, so we have to be prepared. And preparation can save your business. And as you learned earlier, according to FEMA, about 40% of businesses do not reopen after they suffer a natural disaster, and 25% within a year. So that is a large number. And to the extent that we can prevent being one of those statistics, that is our responsibility as business owners, simply because the consequences of a business closure is devastating. You're talking about potential bankruptcy, potential not being able to provide your family, also your employees. So these are very simple strategies that you can apply in preparing your business for a natural disaster. And this is obviously not comprehensive. It's simply their suggestions, their tips. And my role today is to share with you some of these thoughts, but also share with you some of the resources available that you can actually tap into to help you prepare for a potential eventuality like that. And again, I mentioned earlier FEMA, the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the SBA, Disaster Loan Assistance, and you can Google those and they will show up, but also I'll provide those links as well. I think this will be good for today. If you have any questions, you would like to reach me, my email is rich@richsierra.com. My website, if you're interested in learning more about our legal services. And again, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this month. I'm very excited. Providing legal assistance to business owners for 20 years now. I'm very proud of that. We'll have a celebration at some point, but very proud of that to accomplish that. My website is floridasmallbusinesslegalcenter.com. We're on Instagram at FSB Legal. If you want to watch the video of this podcast, we're on youtube.com /@RichardSierra. If you want to give us a call, our number is 866-842-5202. Remember that Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make. It's a book that I wrote about 2 years ago. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can ask for your local bookstores. If you like our show, please follow us and share with your friends. Appreciate a review. Give us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and wherever you enjoy your shows. Until next week, this is Rich Sierra. Remember that my goal is to help you succeed.